Earth in the window of the earth in the window of the stain. How sad the sun is about the mother! How sad the sun is about the tower! Sad my land!
I know what I'm being accused of, and the stars are still a little bit damaged, but they're still hungry. And a little bit of a blackout for him, and a little bit of him, that he's half an hour free from flying training. Unbelievable tension.
Полчаса свободных от предполетных тренировок, от немыслимого напряжения.
Ignoring questions, which one of the two will be chosen to fly into space. The pilots are Indian Air Force testers, Major for the Charm, Lieutenant Colonel Rakesh Malquapro. When the 620 millionth country learned about the Soviet Indian mission to the Earth orbit of the space center of the Republic of India, thousands of letters came from those wishing to go into space. Many said that Indian participation in space flight was one of the most exciting legends about the young fast god Shiva. How he came back from space with blonde blue-eyed people. They fell down among the guys where the man who was responsible lived. I've never been anywhere. And they took him with them, and lifted him over the temples and the clouds, and brought forth the mountains, and the valleys, and the rivers. Terra lay in front of his eyes like a man's palm. Who the 10-year-old Mike Potter 12-year-old charms were seen and heard by the world's first astronaut. Could have been open. Gagarina's car resembled the Indian's chariot of fur, whose temple in Laris's state is sliding on wheels of time with endless space traffic like a sheep dance. On the Indian side, the symbol of the joint flight was the image of Surya, the god of the sun. Similar to the Egyptian Ra and the ancient Greek Helios. This reflects the international spirit of space research. In front of Malquapro and the Charms, the doors of the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center opened. Vladimir Alexandrovich Badalov, head of cosmonaut training, twice the hero of the Soviet Union, was presented to the journalists of the Soviet Union and is embarking on a new phase. Training to cruise. The commander of the first crew, Militia Yuri Vasiljevic, was involved in the testing of the Union spaceship. The boarding in Nikolai Nikolajevic Rukovinnikov used to fly into space. Sharma Raker, an Indian citizen, is preparing for the first time to make a space flight. Commander of the second crew of the coastal Anatoly Nolajevic. Participation in a long space flight. Boarding inner Greco Georgy Mikhailovi took part in 2 space missions. Malco is a citizen. India is preparing for its first space flight. The Indians were among experienced professionals, friendly colleagues. George Greco introduced M. Altras.
With his thesis on visual observation of the zones, I told him that without the support of his comrades,
it would be difficult for him to finish this job, for which he was awarded a legally living to help, Mike Potter said. Nikolai Rukavishnikov, engineer. For a year and a half every day, I was preparing to fly. And it happened that I caught a cold. The disease was mild, but it could have affected the flight. Nole Nolajevic dictates responsibility. The decision must be made by another. Well. Sharma and the enamel. There was no doubt that if Rukavishnikov had replaced him with Gennady Striko, he would have done the same. In the eyes of Indian pilots, it was a feat that Yuri's mother did. In preparation for the Soviet-French experiment, Moloshov's heart was removed from his flight because of his unstimulative work. In spite of his goal, he made his heart work so hard that the doctor returned his right to Fevral in the 84th year to launch the main expedition to the Soviet orbital station. After a while, she's supposed to have a crew visiting the astronaut by an explorer, a citizen of the Republic of India. Mike Potter and Sharma were particularly clear on what would Indian space flight mean to their homeland. Which one of them will be lucky enough to do this? I don't know. The choice will be made before the start. In the meantime, you have to wait and hope at every moment to make yourself believe that you will be the one to choose. And with such deep confidence, it is simply impossible to withstand a tight training program like a strength. Hope to trust and work by avoiding the idea that you're sharing your chances with someone else. All Soviet cosmonauts have gone through this most difficult test of character. They're from India. In every soul there is an insoluble desire to fly to the world. Maybe this drive is born with the backsliders of the legend of a once existing civilization. It's the advice of the fifth space flight. Whoever's going on, the crew never broke up. They were worried about each test together, and they were always in the same place. From those of their comrades' family. His 7-year-old daughter's most difficult period of preparation for Ricky, the army shush, or long-term illness, began in India. Has become very difficult. The doctors couldn't save the girl. Trouble shook the charm. He missed a few classes. The boy is a great birch boy. All the comrades tried to support him. At the end of March, the 1984th year of the Soviet Union launched a spaceship, the Union, manned by a crew consisting of the commander of the ship, Yuri Maleev, aboard engineer Gennady Strikalov and cosmonaut, a researcher and a citizen of Rice, Rakesh Sharma's Indian Chemicals. Both the Flight Control Center and the Orbital Complex and the Cosmonaut Training Center are all the same space range. Who's the problem? Who's the heroism and the courage? The replicas are cosmonauts of Fish's every move, and it's up to its cosmic doppelgangers. He's been in orbit, he's been checked out hundreds of times on the ground, and he's not the first to duplicate the crew. The most complex technological experiment of recrystallization had to be a model alloy prepared in the Indian lab. Heat the hot plasma of an electronic gun and quickly cool off the interplanetary frost outside the station below the hardening point of the new glass. Such a structure of metals makes it super strength, capable of working even in nuclear reactors when attacked by superpowered radiation doses. And everything they've prepared under the Pepin's medical experiment program. You're not just you. The degree of traffic sickness can be determined by the motor reaction of the eyeball. And there's a serious danger in the voyeur disorder of weightlessness. Greco and the babies, it was said that at some point the mind suddenly bursts into illusions, as if you were flying into the abyss and blood ready to rip your head off. It's a matter of the will to get yourself back to reality. I'm gonna miss those, as they call it. Indian scientists have proposed yoga positions, asanas, which stabilize the natural course. Blood circulation. Indian experts have helped to select 5, and they have helped themselves to study under conditions of weightlessness. In addition, Malhotra and Sharma had hoped through yoga to ease the painful fatigue during the exercise. They remember the Greek words well. Months of preparation are such incredible difficulties and trials. Like a space flight itself, compared to them, the second seems to be a comfortable vacation. Miracle, it seemed, was their combination of modern and upcoming ethnic medicine with the physical exercise that had come from the depths of the ages. There can be no good for thousands of generations of Indians. Precise instruments will determine whether the body is more resistant to disease, and the weightlessness of researchers has performed its normal walk, or a cosmonaut who has mastered the asana yoga. April 8th, over the whole India, there was a beautiful appearance. In the course of the experiment, the cosmonaut Terra using special cameras.
We've been able to get about 12 shots.
Very useful information. It may reveal the secret origin of the under heavens Himalayan mountains and the great desert with the dark name Tar in ancient legends. Torn away from the Caucasian mountains and the underworld. It will help to control the devastating suddenness of the terrible floods, which cost thousands of lives each year. In the Indiana, she's gonna find natural fossils that are beyond the reach of the Earth's eyes. The Indians need their own oil and gas. The Soviet Indian crew came from the ground gratefully. Thank you very much, Prime Minister of the Republic of India, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, for helping to build another bridge of friendship between India and India. Karma and Mal Cockfray heard the words of welcome from the Secretary General of the Central and, of course, the Chairman of the Supreme Soviet of the USSR, Konstantinovich Chernenko, and his statement by the Georgian Hall of the Moscow Kremlin. There are dates in the history of the Soviet Union and India that remain remembered forever. April of the 61st year, Yuri Gagarin first stepped outside the Earth of that time and appeared to us in space. Months of Soviet Cosmodrome. The first satellite began its flight, and from Baikonur the first astronaut went into orbit. The Soviet Union has generously shared its achievements in space with all peoples. The Soviet country has honored all participants in the joint space flight. High awards. And will forever be remembered by the karma of those who gave birth to a speech on Soviet soil and the friendly feelings of the people opening up the Indian